Welcome to Life Picks Relationships, helping you understand and enliven your marriage through the various perspectives and experiences of others who found a way to prioritize what's really important in life. From new love to those that have weathered the storms, let's get ready to take your relationships to the next level with your host, ST.
Hey, Life Fixers, hope you're having an awesome day. Are you ready to better understand yourself, your partner, and your marriage today? I am super excited because we have not only a couple, also a therapist. My favorite type of episodes, literally being able to go into a couple's relationship, seeing their raw, seeing the challenges, seeing what's going on in everyday people's lives, just like you, and being able to go and learn from it. If you like this episode, don't forget to share with your family and friends so they too can go and learn from this and help us reach our goal at the same time of getting 1 million downloads per episode by the end of 2025. Now, for today's guest, we have, first of all, a therapist whose marriage was in quite a despair, and today it's full-blown bliss, just like an amazing, amazing marriage. Lily Eggers, thank you so much for being here. Guys, when you're done with this episode, I want you to go to lilyeggers.com. You are going to love her work, love what she does, groups, one-on-one, all different things. Links will be in the show notes as usual. Lily, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and exactly what you do, how you got to where you are today?
Sure, yeah. So I have been super excited, inspired, and almost like a student of relationships for probably, 25, 30 years. And I was a yoga instructor, and I worked with couples in creating couples groups and specials, workshops for couples with yoga. Also in body work, my next phase of career. And now as a licensed marriage family therapist, I have specialized in working with couples because I find the dynamic, I find the energy, I find the impact on someone's life to be so incredibly great. And I myself just love the work, even within one session, the experience of really feeling like something happened today. And I get to walk away feeling like, I know what I did. I know what my impact was, at least for today. So I love it. I write about it. I think about it. I engage in it in my own life and marriage. And I specialize in couples work at this time.
Now, for our couple, we have a really interesting couple. We have a couple who the wife, Lynne, is an artist. You could go and check out her work at LRYALLR.ca. That's lryall.ca. Again, her links will be in our show notes. Stunning art. You'll want to go and check that out. And Mark is a recently retired economics teacher and recently published a book called Age-Decoded. Again, all their links will be in the show notes. You can go and find more information about it. Now, Lynne and Mark, you want to start by telling us how you guys met?
Well, my roommate at the time was in the same MBA class as Mark, and Mark has multiple degrees. And it was one of his degrees, and she and my roommate Jill and Mark were in the same class, and we kind of met by accident one night at a I hate to say it, bar. And we ran into each other, and we were introduced that way.
What did you like about each other? What were you drawn towards?
We all went out for a bite to eat after being at the pool hall, and a bit of a nicer place then. And Lynne was sitting at the table with us, but sort of a little further down from me. But I just I noticed her curiosity and the way she engaged in the conversation, and her too much directly. Noticed that right away.
I thought he was cute, and I liked
with that.
And I liked his eyes. There's something in his eyes, and I was interested, and I definitely wanted to know him better. And I was kind of a little annoyed that I was sitting at the other end of the table. So I was definitely directly pointing questions at him. I'm not a very good flirt, but I'm my way of flirting is kind of to pester someone with questions.
Yeah, it sounds like he liked that. He likes your curiosity.
So that's what kind of happened.
That was his flirtation.
Yes.
It worked. Nice. I'm curious. I'd love to know that what are you wanting? What are you wanting in more of in your relationship, in your connection, in your marriage, in what you've built together? And if you're open to it, just turning towards each other and telling each other.
Wow.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Wow. I don't know. This is really hard.
Just take a moment, even just take a breath and let yourself settle. I know it's kind of an abrupt question. It maybe felt sudden. Just take a breath, both of you. Let yourselves arrive.
I think I really want just to move past sort of the stuff that gets involved every day, and really just we talk an awful lot, and just get to sort of things that are at the core really important to us, and just sort of that create intimacy. I guess that I think that is what I kind of really want in the long term, I think.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking along the same lines, because we're both pretty driven people, and we're very busy with our art and whatnot. And so we, as a couple, a lot of other people look at us and think, oh, you're doing all this, you're doing all that, great, great, great. But sometimes we get lost in all the action.
Tell her.
Lost in the action, and we don't.
Lynne, can you receive his desire? Receive what he's wanting.
So sometimes we get lost in all the action, and we don't go sort of deep enough into just ourselves, as a relationship.
Yeah, and the vulnerabilities between each of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you look in each other's eyes? Do you see? I'm seeing just each of you.
Don't make me cry.
Yeah, it brings up tears.
Fine.
Yeah, it brings up tears. Are you open to sharing a little bit about those tears, Lynne?
Well, I think it's taken us. I think it's taken us. We've been together now, I guess, almost 29 years.
Wow, 29 years.
And I have really noticed since he's written the novel, and he's been talking a lot about what's been going on with his desire in his life to figure out sort of what he's all about. That's come out a lot more, and that's made a real difference to me to know.
Yeah,
getting
to know each other better, even after you've been together so many years.
Difference to me. Yeah.
Yeah. The novel, and Lynne's been involved with helping edit it, and even thinking about the writing and whatnot, as are other people. But my novel has some, I wouldn't say direct Christian elements to it, but very spiritual elements. There's one character that's Buddhist, and he's probably a lot more mindful than maybe even Lynne and I are with each other. So he's thinking about humanity and life, and what's a meaningful life. And in my novel, people are allowed to live forever. So that changes everything. And
how has that impacted your relationship?
Well, we won't live forever. We're both we're both in our mid to later age now, and life is moving on, right? We both just retired from teaching. We both taught for a long time, and that also was very busy, right?
Do you have kids?
We have a daughter. She's in med school right now.
Wow.
She's 23. So yeah.
So I'm so deeply intrigued by the novel, and that both of you brought it up as a way that you're collaborating, that you're such a team. And I'm curious how the content of your novel, but also the process of this creation and this creativity has impacted your marriage, your connection. Are you married, by the way? I don't know that for sure.
Yes,
you are married. Okay, great.
We've been married almost 26 years.
Okay.
Well, the creativity, Lynne has always been a very creative person. Maybe you want to talk about your art a little bit. And Lynne was an art teacher. And then I can talk about my side of it.
Do you want me to do that?
Sure.
I started off, I always thought I'd be an artist. I always from the time I was 2, I was drawing. My room, I was joking with someone yesterday that my room was a sea of sparkles. When I was growing up, I was filled with like sparkles or beads or paint or something, and so I was always doing that. And that was the case all through school, like, except that when I went, but I also had a very strong interest because I had a great history teacher and fairly academic parents. And so what happened was that I wound up did my first degree in history. And because the art kind of scared me, actually, in a lot of ways, like it was like I thought I'd be too wacky or different or something. And then I realized that was not exactly like I completed a history degree and I've used it. It's been a wonderful thing. But art was really, I always said, history was where my head was, but art was where my heart was. And so that's what happened. And I wound up teaching, and the teaching I got taught, I had a job working in Ontario housing, which is kind of low income housing, with different immigrant groups for a summer. And I realized I loved it. And so I went into teaching, and so I went into teaching, and that career was amazing. But I knew at some point I'd come back to the art, and I did when I retired, and how it all happened. And I'm doing it now, and it seems to be taking off now, which is lovely.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Is this piece behind you yours, Lynne?
Yes.
I was noticing it when we first arrived. So beautiful. Haunting.
Also, there's like one on the floor, or it's lower down. You only see half
that's
of it.
not
I'm like, that's a stunning
yet.
one.
Work in progress.
That's work in progress. That's work in progress. The one side needs a little work. Anyway, so
love it.
So my route to art and to being an artist or a writer is much more tortuous and much slower. So I started off when I was in high school. I was very good at math and science, and I went into university studying engineering. And one of the toughest decisions in my life was to drop out of that program. I was the top student in that program, and I had to drop out. And something inside of me told me that this is not right for me, this technical side.
Can we just celebrate your inner wisdom and your listening to that inner voice? I just love that.
Yeah. And at the point, it's agony. Like at the point, you're not celebrating. You're thinking, "Oh my God, there's something wrong with me." But
totally.
What I didn't know is my genuine self was somewhere else, and actually teaching saved me. After I went back into science,
Yeah.
Did a master's program, and I dropped out of that too, even though I was doing well. And I had a good. So twice it happened. Then I realized, oh my God, there's something about me that must be, crying for attention, my real self, my genuine self, whatever that was. So luckily, when all that happened, it was just horrible because I was supposed to be a good student. It was embarrassing, actually. And my family and my friends were probably even wondering what's going on with this guy. So what I did is I just took pause. I did a little bit of teaching in a lab out in Vancouver. And when I was teaching, luckily one student said to me one day, he said, "You're really helping me with this course. You're good at explaining things." That one person made that one comment, and I can't remember his name or anything, but that changed everything. I went into teaching, and like Lynne, I spent over 20 years teaching, and I ended up teaching economics, which was great because it's actually very not as people think it is. There's lots of politics, sociology, and economics, and business, current events, news. So it's a very messy subject, which was great. I really enjoyed it. I coached cross country running, and right around then, I started feeling more comfortable with myself. So my artistic side started to come out. I started writing that novel about 10 years ago as a teacher. I couldn't get it published, but that's not too surprising. It's tough. It's tough to crack into that market, especially science. So I left it on hold, and I think serendipity hit too there because genetic engineering now is a very, very top of mind subject, more than it was 10 years. CRISPR and genetic engineering. Also, self-publishing is much easier now. So I was able to self-publish just a few weeks ago, and
Congratulations.
things have worked out. And then I also do art. I've done a fair amount of drawing, not as much as Lynn, but I've enjoyed doing some acrylic art.
Like he actually he's very prolific when he does anything. When Mark does anything, he goes to town. Like he's absolutely, completely and utterly like into it. And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm a little bit into acrylic painting." Like he's probably created about 100 and quite large paintings. So we have, so it's not like he's not just started anyway.
But Lynn is on that front. Lynn is so helpful because she helped me a little bit with the novel, but she's helped a lot more with the painting because we have this shared studio down in this old factory. It's called the Cotton Factory in Hamilton. It's over 100 years old, and they sort of upgraded it for studios for artists. And so Lynn and I have a space right next to each other. And Lynn is a color expert. Like she really knows like what's in each color and what color. If you look at that beautiful painting there, the colors are complementary. So I'm always asking Lynn before I dive into any painting. Okay, what color should I go for? Like I have no idea. So
you guys really work together.
Oh yeah.
He's very good with little details. So I tend to see whole picture. I tend to see whole picture and then when it gets down to detail, I start freezing up a lot. So or I almost kind of get tense, and so I can map out a whole thing very, very quickly. But when it gets down to the detail part sometimes, and I always think the second half of my life is about sort of figuring out that detail side, like on
appreciating how each of you are appreciating each other and your gifts and your skills and what you're naming what the other person does that maybe you're challenged by, or the ways that they support you and inspire you, and just really feeling the not only are you good at collaboration and teamwork, but you're also really such a sweet valuing and acknowledging of each other in this space.
I'm sure it overflows into other spaces too, if you can notice it this strongly here.
I have to say that one of the things, Mark's very good at a lot of things. He's obviously very intelligent, and it's one of the things. He was always very good at math and science. I wasn't quite as good at math and science. Like I could always sort of understand it, but again, the details, I would press a calculator, it would be a wrong button or something like that. And one of the things that I noticed was that originally when he started taking up art, I was a little oh, you're getting in my space,
It was funny.
And I said, I'm the artist,
That's right.
Because he was into triathlons and he was a great golfer and doing all these.
So you had your separate spheres that was working
and so forth. And then what happened was I noticed he started to get good at it. And I thought the one thing as a teacher is you have to look at people and say, okay, if they're getting good at something, you have to acknowledge that. You really have to sort of, okay, yeah, I get it. And
although my first painting, you want to tell them about the first painting?
Well, the first time is I was painting. I was still teaching at the time, and I was still teaching. And I guess he came in and he said, "What are you doing?" And I thought, "Well, I'm painting." Anyway, so and he said, "Give me a brush." So he said, "Give me a brush," and he sort of constructed this abstract. It was this little, this abstract, and I sort of went, okay, yeah, all right. Anyway, and he said, "Can you take it to?" And Mark has quite a competitive gene, and he said, "Take it to the class and get them to mark it."
That was a mistake.
I gave him a 6 out of 10.
Funny.
That's funny. I laughed. I brought it back, but for some reason he really gravitated towards it, and I started picking it up, and then we started getting cramped in the art space, and so that's what led to getting the bigger studio.
I love it.
So
I'm just remembering when you shared about what you're longing for. My sense is that you're really good at talking about history, politics, science, the world, art. And I'm curious about you're longing for something deeper. You're longing for some sort of core. What did you call it? Core connection. And I'm just as I say those words, I'm seeing just a little softening in your eyes. And I'm wondering, are you open? And maybe this isn't the platform for this. And please say no. Like, yeah, Lily, not in this way. This feels like too much. But I'm wondering if you're open to experiencing a little piece of that right now.
I guess so. Are you okay? Or
Well, maybe we could talk about that through, I don't know, maybe through one issue we've always had. Like there's, couples always have their sort of pet issues, and I think this issue relates to what you might be saying. One thing that differs Lynne and I is that she's much more social than I am. She always likes human connections, and that really drives her. Because I'm a little more, I'd say, I'm not, I don't know if I'm really an introvert anymore, but sort of that. And so I think that our relationship and also with others too. So we have always had this, if we ever say argue about anything, it's often about one thing, and it's, do you want to go to this party? Do you want to connect with these people? Maybe that even within ourselves, it's, do you want a soulmate discussion, right? That human connection. So Lynne is much more that way, and I'm much more introverted. And it has been sometime a point of contention, and it's always been. Yes, we work it out. We work it out. But,
we always.
Do you feel connected with each other? Like, do you feel, Lynne, like when you're wanting some eye contact or attention or reassurance, or like that's available for you? Do you know how to?
I think
get that out of him?
I think in the beginning of the relationship, it was harder. It's beginning to happen. Beautiful. I'd say now.
Lovely.
I'd say now, like it's. I really noticed since
you learned together,
especially in the last 10 years. It's been sort of. I've noticed our ways of communicating are different now than before. We have. I'd say that. I use the word boundary about what's sort of our importance, but beginning to sort of understand sort of, where each of us sits and what each of us needs from life. And I think defining it kind of makes us, as long as we understand what each other needs that way, I think that's like he needs quite different things in many ways than I do. And but that's okay. As long, that's okay. So does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah.
I'm curious about sharing with each other something that you really value about the other person, and maybe something that you haven't said yet. You've shared about the art and the creativity, the intelligence, so many things, right? Flashy, wonderful things about each of you. You're both you're amazing people, right? You create amazing things. And I wonder if you're open right now to share something that only you know about. Like, I love the way when you first wake up in the morning, you snuffle in my neck, and nobody else knows about this. Right? And I love how it makes me feel. And I love that it's part of our 29-year relationship, or even in the past 15 years or whatever. And would you tell each other that? Would you tell each other one of those things?
Well, what I love about Lynne is that,
and tell her,
Lynne, is that you're a genuinely nice person. I don't mean nice just as nice, but you're a genuinely positive person with everybody around you. It's not fake. It's real. You have no ulterior motives. You're exactly what you present to the world, to your friends, and to the world, which is fantastic, because that's the genuine you. And I've probably never met or related to anybody so nice. And I hate the word nice, but we need more niceness in this world. And you don't like conflict. You love harmony. And you love getting along with people. And that's a fantastic quality. And I'm so lucky that I ended up with you as a spouse.
Oh, see her, Mark. See how she's so touched. Yeah. Yeah, just let's pause a minute. There's no need to rush on to the next. This is so sweet. Yeah. But I want you to deeply take that in, Lynn, and Mark, see how your words really move her, really impact her.
I think I got that from my mother, but
beautiful.
But what I think one thing I don't think people realize is I think Mark innately is deeply spiritual, and I kind of can see that in him. And
can you tell him how you feel about his spirituality?
I think you're really trying hard to find that about yourself, and I think that's been your goal. And I love the intensity of your need to get there, and that's your ultimate goal, I think, through your writing and but also I think that's deeply who you are. And I don't know if you've ever known that. And I don't think it has to do with religion. I think it has to do with just spirituality and human nature. Okay. Is that?
Yeah.
How's that to hear, Mark? How is it to be seen by Lynn so deeply, all the way in, be known?
No, that feels great, and I appreciate her telling me that in public. It's not easy to say that in public. Maybe we should do that more in private, right? But yeah, thank you, dear.
And one of my favorite things to teach couples is this practice of valuing and acknowledging something, anything. And it's amazing how much couples attach to it, and they love it. It's like this nourishing, pleasurable experience of receiving this acknowledgement and giving the acknowledgement and being seen so deeply. I'm really touched by you two. I'm touched by the depth with which you see each other beyond all the things, right? Thank you for sharing that. I feel more enriched. My heart feels fuller than it did a few minutes ago. Thank you. How could you imagine taking this experience into your daily life?
Well, I'm going to have to review the tapes to start off and analyze what we did. No, but I'm serious. Be more serious. It's what you just said. It's we've never done any counseling or therapy. We've just sort of rolled on through, and we've done okay, obviously, right? With their lives. We're very fortunate people and a fortunate couple, but there's always improvements that can be made, and what we just did there is a thoughtful exercise, and
it is
something to move forward with, because we're still going to be with each other hopefully for another 20 or 30 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
My parents, who are both alive, but my father's struggling in health, and my mother's become more of a caretaker. They are still always working on their relationship and trying to support each other. And it can get tougher too as you grow quite old. It can get tougher. So we can't think statically. We've got to think moving forward.
One of the things that's always struck me is, when I met Mark's parents, I instantly liked them. I don't know what it was. And I instantly liked them. And it's because, in a weird way, they were just completely genuine on who they were, their foibles, their issues that, they've been very straightforward about it. It's been interesting as they age. And they're all going through, medical changes, all sorts of things, and, how they grapple with that. And one of the things I do really appreciate about them is how honest they are about those changes. And I really, that makes it a lot easier in some ways to deal with them, because they are, and I don't say deal in terms of like, oh, I got to deal with them, but, it's more sort of how you interact and things like that.
Yeah. Have you talked about that together, just sort of about between each other, like how to age?
Yeah, we have that we have for sure. Yeah.
Are you open to sharing? I know for me, I've been married 8 years, and we're not in that phase. We're in our 40s, but I know we also see our aging parents, and they're at a different kind of aging, but there's an element of like, how do we do it? And you're much ahead of me. This is not me as a therapist. This is me as a wife. I'd love to know some of your wisdom.
Sure. Well, we think of them. It is challenging with like my father's been fighting cancer for a few years now. So the drugs he has to take make him weaker. And therefore, that's why my mother has become, more of a caretaker. My father still has got a sense of humor and he's still sharp as a whip, but, and that's great. But, but we see that not as some sort of a challenge. There's still a beautiful model for us to follow. Like they've been together, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, I think it's 67 years married. And,
it's a long time.
And
my parents are both deceased.
Yeah, unfortunately,
but
although her mother only recently died, her father died a lot earlier. So it's more from my parents' side where we've seen this, but that's what old age, that's what oldness does. And actually, my novel, if I could just touch on it for a second, is about if you made people immortal and everybody was 25 years old, what would you take away from humanity? Well, you wouldn't have any children anymore, and you wouldn't have any old people. You wouldn't have those generational bonds.
What would wisdom even mean?
One of the characters in my novel is 25, but she realizes she'll never be a mother. She'll never have, her father left her, so she doesn't have any parents. Her mother committed suicide, so she's lost both her parents. She'll never have a child. And she's wondering, like, where am I in this? What's this world going to be like? We're all stuck right now, right? So what we're talking about here about my parents is such a precious, actually it's a gift. It's not it's not a burden, it's a gift.
Right. I remember as a little kid thinking, like, what is it that people right before they're like in these last years or when they're given a diagnosis, a terminal diagnosis, like what fits into place? What goes where in their hierarchy of order, the most important things? And I remember thinking as a kid, I was maybe like 8 or 9 and thinking, I want that order now. And I think that's why I went into relationships, because that's one of the things that people say, relationships, because it's so important. And it's the thing that sometimes we forget because there's so many other amazing things to focus on. And it isn't until those last days or weeks that we realize, see now.
My mom died of cancer about 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now. Anyway, seems like yesterday. And the one thing I remember noticing at the very end, in the last 3 weeks, was just how, despite her failing faculties, the last couple of weeks, she couldn't walk. And, she was in diapers, all that kind of stuff and everything. And she had a wonderful sense of humor. And, we even used to joke if I had to change her or whatever, but the indignity of it all and everything, that's just normal for older people. Mm-hmm. But even in the last couple of days, the essence of who she was still apparent, despite the fact she couldn't communicate, she couldn't talk, and I could sense her essence there. And very strange. It was, I really realized that, you do have an essence. There's no question.
Yes. I so appreciate, Mark, you're resting your hand. I feel that solidarity, that connection, feeling with Lynne. Beautiful.
And there's a phrase I can throw it out there. Behind every successful marriage is a shocked mother-in-law. She was the sweetest lady and greatest mother-in-law, and that you can see where Lynne gets her genes from. Her father was a very, very intelligent and very kind gentleman as well. I must say that. I didn't know him as well because he died much earlier.
Yeah, he died about, he's the same. He died at the time that my daughter was born. Our daughter was born. Yeah, our daughter was born.
1 week later in the same hospital we went for his death and then for her birth.
Wow. What a cycle.
It was a big shock to me. It sent me through quite a
Princess Di died that week too. So that was
Yeah,
even more
Mother
of a shock.
Teresa as well. Yeah.
What a week.
It was probably the most profound week of my life on some levels,
I can imagine. Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely. I've never been through something like that my whole existence.
It's like thinking the emotional roller coaster is just.
It's almost like feels so much love with you. Like there's just so much love in this space. I'm just really, you're such loving people, and just even the way you talk about your parents, it feels almost like ancestral and so sweet. Anyway, I'm really touched to be with you this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what it's like for you, A, to be in this place right now. And second of all, if it's different, I'm sure it is, how it's different, how it feels different, the fact that it's.
I feel good about it, but I also feel vulnerable. It's sort of, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely vulnerable. If you go to a therapist, you're talking to one person. Here we are, So after the show, should we send this link to anyone?
Yeah. A few of my, friends and relatives really want to see this.
You know what I feel like, at least the conversation thus far, it's like you're giving people, you're inviting them into a deeper state of consciousness. That's how it feels to me. Like we're not just talking about cool things. We're talking about human, like the state of being a human in a deep connecting relationship through the ups and downs of life. Like, whew, I love that. Like that's what people are so seeking in life. I think they're seeking it all the time. They're wanting something true and deep. Isn't that what you named, about each other that you so value? You named the spiritual core and the kindness, the deep trueness of your heart, your thoughtfulness. I mean, you're bringing it home for everybody. It feels like a gift, an experiential gift you're giving.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And it's really not something that you could give someone advice. You could go and talk to people, but there's nothing as being able to really go and experience it and come into that vulnerability that you're providing.
I think both of us really have a genuine desire through whatever means that we need to do it to make the world a better place. I think that's really something that both of us in our own unique ways are desperate to do. And I say desperate, I don't mean it in I think in a world today where there's so much distrust and so much because of social media, because of all sorts of polarizations and things like that there's this deep desire to get beyond that.
And art is a great way to do that for any listeners or viewers. Everybody has an artist within them, and if you can do some art, whatever it is, whether it's music, poetry, writing, art like Lynne does with illustrative art or drawing, it's a fantastic way of sending your message, a positive message to the world. Because like for example, I do all these other things like triathlons and I don't know, play golf. That's going to be meaningless. Nobody's going to care what time I got in some championship race or whatever. But they will see any art pieces that you leave, my novel is an art piece, will be left. All of Lynne's art will be hanging in people's houses for dozens of years, maybe even longer. So anybody who produces a piece of art, think of like Leonardo da Vinci or what's the name of that Maud Lewis?
Yeah.
From, I don't know if viewers have seen Maud Lewis. She was accused of doing childish, stupid, silly, very simple art. And if you go and check her art, it's beautiful from East Coast Canada. And she is now, there's a movie that was a movie that was done on her. She was a wonderful person who left that legacy and that was almost ridiculed at the time. And you go see the positive nature of her art, the environmental nature of her art. It's just, it's Maud Lewis.
Yes. Yeah. There's something so beautiful about that. believe it, there's something about her work that just gets beyond even sort of just human. It's different.
We're trying to do that. Sorry to interrupt there. And we're trying to do that with the art, and people do it with children too. The children are legacy, right? This generation is a human legacy that we can all give.
I wonder, I was almost thinking about like this experience today as an art piece, like this, I mean, it will touch people. It will move their hearts. They will join you, in your soft eyes, your tears. They will join you in your acknowledging and your remembering.
Yes, absolutely. And I've done a couple other podcasts more talking about my novel and how I became a writer. And I got emotional on one of them, which sort of surprised me, but it was okay.
It's definitely been a journey. I think, they always say that, your older age is like we're retired, but, I don't feel retired. I feel like the next sort of, there's a sort of a seeking right now that is going on with both of us. That is a really important part. And as our bodies deteriorate, my eyesight's going and all sorts of stuff, it's that lives on beyond that, so.
Yeah, I appreciate all of you for creating this space. And before we finish, I have one last question that I ask everyone, and I'll be really curious, coming from this space, from this like really vulnerable openness, what your answers would be. How would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, connection, or intimacy?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
There could be love, connection, and intimacy in the relationship because you need that for an extraordinary relationship, for any relationship. But how else would you describe it? What else is important? What other words would you use? Other definitions, other things?
Openness is great. Communicating, just sharing thoughts. With Lynn and I, for example, we never hold grudges. We do disagree on things, but we will hammer them out, talk about them. We won't go hide away forever. No grudges. Just let's just talk it through, and so that sharing, that communication. It's really important.
We do hammer it out, and we'll hammer it out repeatedly. Like it won't, it may not happen overnight. Patience, I think, is a huge factor and trust that you'll get to a point where a solution, say if we've had if we're having an issue or something like that, and I think patience is a huge part of all of that because we all grow at different rates and we all evolve at different rates, and so that's what and also space. I think we're lucky enough that we give each other a lot of space to do what we want to do, or to even work out what we need to work out.
I could put in a plug for Warren Buffett. He said the secret to a successful marriage is very low expectations. But I'm joking there, but at least realistic expectations. Like you are married to a human being, right? So you're not perfect. They're not perfect. Work it out, but have realistic expectations too.
I think it's also realizing that sometimes the person individually may need to work out something for themselves, and realizing that almost saying, I trust that you'll do this and figure this out for yourself, and sort of not trying to fix or to allowing them to make those decisions. I think that's a really important part of a really good marriage.
You can't change your spouse anyways.
No, we learned that a long time ago.
What about you, Lily? What would you answer?
Much of what they shared, I'd add playful, fun, and humor is so important. Vulnerability is so enriching. I mean, I think we experienced that here. I certainly did, that tender, the next layer deep with someone. Or maybe you said that already. Sorry, maybe that was one of those words I couldn't say.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. growth,
Yes.
evolution, sort of being willing to grow, not to change someone, but to be open to the natural what happens naturally through growth and time. I'm going to think of so many more when we get off, I'm sure. How could I not say this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. I know this was not easy, but I know it provided a lot of value to a lot of people. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's all for this episode of Life Picks Relationships, and we have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support this show, but also give others what they need to take their marriage to the next level. We're striving to have 1 million downloads per episode by December 31st, 2025, so please share it with your family and friends so they can turn their relationship into an extraordinary one.